Okay, so today, as I said in the last lecture, that we will start fluorescence spectroscopy. Okay, so if you remember, while discussing UV visible spectroscopy, or in general, the first lecture of spectroscopy, we said that any transition, right, from the ground state, so let us say this is ground state, to an excited state, right, like this, be it electronic or any other thing, this is called absorption, and the return from the excited state to the ground state is called emission. So this is absorption, this is emission. Okay, now if this emission, right, is in the form of light, then we say that this is luminescence, right? So emission from electronically excited state to the ground state, sorry, I should write emission of light, because this emission, I mean, if it is in the form of heat or something else, then we will not call it luminescence. Emission of light from electronically excited state to the ground state is called luminescence. Right. Now this luminescence can actually be divided into two classes. Right. One is fluorescence and another is phosphorescence. This phosphorescence, you might have heard this name before. Now, what is the difference between the two? And in this course or in this lecture, we will only be considering fluorescence. We will not consider phosphorescence in our discussions. But we'll have a look, I mean, the basic difference between the two. Now, this fluorescence, right, suppose there is an ground state which has two electrons, right, like this, and it is excited so that this electron is here and the other electron goes to the upper excited state. Now this is the electronic configuration of the excited state. In this, the electronic configuration of the excited state, you see both the electrons have opposite spins. Right? Now when they have opposite spin, they can easily pair up. Now, so the return from this excited, the electron from the upper state to the ground state is spin allowed, because they are of opposite spin. And so this is much faster and the rate is also faster. This rate is nearly 10 to the power 8 per second. Right? As it is 10 to the power 8 per second. Now there is a term in fluorescence spectroscopy called lifetime. We will not elaborate this at this point, just mention it what it is. Lifetime is the time that is spent by the excited state, I mean the molecule in its excited state. You can say that it is the lifetime. So it is the time taken from this excitation, so the electron is going up and coming down. Right? The total time taken may be considered as lifetime. Right? So this is nearly the opposite, I mean the reciprocal of the rate. So it will be 10 to the power minus 8 seconds. So what is 10 to the power minus 8 seconds? You can write it like 10 into 10 to the power minus 9 seconds. So that is 10 nanoseconds. Right. So fluorescence lifetimes are in general in the range of 10 nanoseconds. Right. Now 10 nanoseconds, I mean this is not for every molecule or every study. Right. So they are a general typical lifetime, that is 10 nanosecond. Now 10 nanosecond may seem very small time. If you see to the in the speed of light, so it is 3 into 10 to the power 10 centimeter. Right? So in 1 nanosecond, what will be the time traveled by it? So in 10 nanosecond, you see it is like 10 to the power 10 multiplied by right. So this is the distance traveled by light in 10 nanosecond. So it is 300 centimeter. So it is 300 centimeter. That means 3 meters. So if you compare 3 meter means like a one-story building, right? From ground floor to the first floor. So light travels that amount of distance in 10 nanosecond. That is the lifetime of typical fluorescence. Right. On the other hand, phosphorescence. So I mean, as you if you shown the light to the sample of a substance that shows fluorescence, right? Your eyes will not be able to detect it. Right? You need instruments to follow up this fluorescence. Right? It is so fast. But in case of phosphorescence, see, let us take again this example. Right? From ground state, it is excited to an singlet state. Right? This is called a singlet state. Now, what is singlet? I should have mentioned it here. This is called a singlet excited state. Now, these terms, singlet and triplet, are quantum mechanical terms, right? Just for the time being, you should think that the total spin here, see, in this system is 0. So if you sum up the spin, so half minus half is 0, right? So the spin multiplicity, there is another term called spin multiplicity. For the time being, let us just consider the formula of spin multiplicity as 2s plus 1. So what is 2s plus 1 for if s equals to 0? If you put s equals to 0, this 2s plus 1 becomes 1. See, if s equals to 0, when s equals to 0, that's why this is called singlet, right? But for phosphorescence, what happens? After excitation, there may be by some system which we'll just discuss in the next 2 slides, right? There is a spin flip, right? There is a spin flip. Now the spin flips, and these two electrons now have the same spin. Both have plus half or both have minus half. As such, now the return from this state to here is not spin allowed. So this is spin forbidden, right? As such, this is much slower process, and this takes place, the rate is usually per second to even just 1 second, right? So you can imagine the lifetimes. So lifetime of phosphorescence is in the region of 10 to the power minus 3 second to 1 second, right? That means millisecond to 1 second. Now that's why your eyes can observe phosphorescence. That means if a substance is there, right, you have shown the light, right, and you switch off the light source, right? Then after some second, after some time also, you can see light is glowing out from here, right? So there are situations, there are substances, and there are techniques by which you can increase the lifetime to few seconds also for this phosphorescence, right? And that is used in that glowing toys, glow in the dark toys, right? You know, glow in the dark. There are stickers available in the market, or that for wall decorations, right? Or even in ink of the paints, right? Where the if you have if you switch on the light in the room and then switch off it, you can still see the objects, right? Those are due to phosphorescence, not fluorescence. They are due to phosphorescence because of their extra lifetime, right? Long lifetime. Okay, so this was the basic difference from fluorescence to phosphorescence. So here we have a parallel spin, right? Now if you have parallel spin, then the sum of spin equals to plus half, so it's plus 1. Now if you put plus 1 in this equation, what you have? You have 2 into 1 plus 1, that is 3, right? So that's why this state is called triplet spin state. Okay, so this is just a simple explanation of singlet and triplet. Of course, this is we are not I have not gone into details of anything. So this is the difference between fluorescence and phosphorescence, right? Now next we will just now concentrate on our this fluorescence, right? And as we know, these are actually typically shown by organic molecules, right? These are typically shown by organic molecules. So you can see on the right hand panel, just see the colors, and the structures are also written there. Aromatic molecules, right? Aromatic, not only organic, aromatic molecules. See, all of them are, they are highly aromatic, right? They are in high conjugation molecules who are there, right? See, in the panel below, you can see different colors, right? One of them, if you can read, see, this is quinine sulfate. This is quinine sulfate, the second one from left, the bright, beautiful blue color, right? This was actually first observed, right? This was first observed by William Herschel in 1845, long back ago, right? He first observed this kind of phenomenon from a that is your mixture of a solution of quinine sulfate and tartaric acid. He reported it. At that time, it was not known that it was a fluorescence. After some time, after people have done research on this and found out that this is what is called fluorescence, and the name comes from this dye, fluorescein, right? The green color, this fluorescein, right? See, these colors, these dyes are actually used in these your fluorescent markers. Where you see fluorescent markers, this fluorescent dye is actually used in this green fluorescent marker, right? Now, these molecules who show fluorescence are called fluoropores, right? Henceforth, whenever we say that is a fluoropore, we mean that this molecule show fluoropores. This molecule show fluorescence. Okay. Now, the main thing about fluorescence is its sensitivity, right? It is highly sensitive instrument. Not only instrument, highly sensitive technique. And this requires very sophisticated instrumentation to measure those lifetimes, because they are very short lifetime. Now, why I say this highly sensitive means, you can mm, even detect. Now there are techniques in today that you can detect even a single molecule, right? A single molecule in by fluorescence spectroscopy. It is so sensitive. Now this sensitivity was actually shown long back ago in 1877, right? It was shown, right, that this sensitivity by a beautiful experiment by if you have heard the name of these two rivers, I don't know, these Danube, two great rivers of Europe, Danube and Rhine, right? Like the famous rivers of India like Ganga and Yamuna, right? In Europe there is two very great rivers, Danube and Rhine. I mean Rhine is I think it passes through mostly through France, and Danube is through many countries. It passed through Austria, Czechoslovakia, and all that things. Right? Okay. Now, what they did, there was a controversy that Danube and Rhine are interconnected through channels, underground channels. Right. So some people believe, some people did not. Now, what they did, they actually deposited some fluorescent dye, this fluorescent, right, this fluorescent dye, this green colored dye in Danube, right, and at some places, right, and after 6 hours or I really forgot the specific time, right, after 6 hours or 10 hours whatever, right, they found that the fluorescence of this fluorescent dye in Rhine river. Right. So you can easily see how sensitive this technique is. Right. It can detect even in these dyes. Now from this sensitivity already you can see that there are some applications emerging. We will discuss them in the next lecture, the application and instrumentation. But for the time being you can see it is so sensitive that it is easily used or advantageously used for medical purposes, right? So suppose this fluorescent dye or any other dye which is fluorescent is passed through your blood or something, right? Or it is such that it binds to the tumor, right? So whatever, when it is passed through the blood, it goes on to your body, it sets an equilibrium for after say 4 hours or 2 hours whatever, and after that you can easily see if you scan your body, right, when the body of the patient is scanned, right, you can see the concentrated dye is there where it is there is tumor or any other lesions is there, right? So this is one of the main use of fluorescence due to its high sensitivity. It is also used for environmental concerns, environmental checks, right? Like it is done in the case of Danube and Rhine. Okay, so this was just a preliminary discussion about fluorescence. Now let us see these representations. So here in this panel it is shown two different spectra, for two different fluoropores. The first panel, I think I will change the color of the marker, otherwise it is not shown here, right? Okay, see, this first one is of pyridine. See the structure here, highly aromatic structure, and second one is that of quinine sulfate, the lower one, right? See, for the blue color spectras are for the absorption spectra, the electronic spectra that we have already discussed, right? And the red color is the emission spectra. The blue colored, if you just for the time forget what is on the right hand side, the blue colored, the red colored, just see the blue colored one. It is typical excitation, the absorption spectra, right? Where it is given on the x-axis it is either wavelength or wave number, and on the y-axis it is absorption or extinction coefficient. Here it is extinction coefficient, right? But for the emission spectra on the y-axis, you see it is not, there is no unit, right? It is normalized emission intensity or fluorescent intensity, right? Normalized fluorescence intensity. And of course the x-axis remains same, right? So this is a particular typical example of two fluorescence spectra. Now see, what is the striking feature up to which what we have discussed till now about fluorescence spectroscopy? What is the most striking feature that is coming out from these diagrams, that is from this picture? You see, we have discussed that fluorescence is the light coming back from excited state to the ground state, fine, and any absorption is from ground state to this one. Now whatever be emission or absorption, the energy gap, if it is remaining same, then they should appear in the same wavelength. Lambda absorption should be equal to lambda emission, isn't it? This should be equal, but we see this is not the case here. It is quite different. This is why it is so. We have to answer this. And another one is, there are two things which is different for the two examples. The first one is same. First one is okay for both of them, but there is two things. See, for the pyridine case, the blue curve and the red graph are like mirror images, isn't it? They are like mirror image mostly. Whereas for the quinine, it is not. These two things we have to explain, right? When it is mirror image or not. Okay. Now, for these two, explaining these two phenomenon, we have to refer to something which is very important in fluorescence spectroscopy, and I should say you should also prepare this for your exam point of view, right? This is called, what is called, Jablonski diagram. This is named after Professor Alexander Jablonski, who is called the father of fluorescence, right? Because he has numerous contribution in his this not only Jablonski diagram, anisotropy and all that. Okay. Now, what is Jablonski diagram? It has several forms. We'll just draw the simplest forms here, right? Okay. Say this is the ground state, electronic ground state of a molecule, right? What is S? S stands for singlet ground state. 0 is for, that is the zeroth state, right? So this is the ground state. And say suppose this is S1. This means singlet excited state, and let there be another excited state. So this will okay, I think this will not be this far away. Okay, so if we assign it S2, that is the second excited state, but still singlet. That means the electron will not flip the spin. They will be antiparallel to each other from the ground state electron and the upper state electron. Now, if you remember, there are also something called vibrational state. For each electronic state, there are vibrational states, right? So, suppose this is the lowest vibrational state also, so we depict it by 0, and then we say it be 1, then 2, right? So something like this. So this is again 0. 0 of what? 0 of S1. So lowest vibrational state of the first excited state. So let it be 1, let it be 2, and similarly here also we have 1 and 2, right? Now whenever you excite an electron from the ground state to the upper excited state, it usually ends up in the higher vibrational levels, right? So it may go here, it may also go here, sorry, I mean, forgive me for my lines, right? And it may also go here. You do not know, you cannot be that precise, right, about that. So whatever you excite, we can say that the molecule is now in the electronically fast excited state, but they may be in different vibrational levels of the fast excited state, right? As such, we have already discussed that what will happen if it is like this, right? So they are in different energy levels, so you will see different absorption spectra like this, suppose, right? So the absorption spectra may look like this. So this is the lowest and highest energy, so maybe this longest one, right? So we can say this is say 0 to 2, and this is for say 0 to 1. 0 to 1 or 0 to 2 means 0th vibrational level of the ground state to second vibrational level of the fast excited state. So it is 0 from the ground state to fast vibrational level of the fast excited state. And this is sorry for this line. Okay, so this is from 0 to 0, that means 0th level ground state to 0th vibrational level of the fast excited state. Okay, so this is the vibrational structure that we saw in case of perylene, right? But you might not see the vibrational structure so clearly for every molecule. For example, for quinine only, we do not see this vibrational structure. This harms is something else we will discuss very soon. What is it, right? And why you do not see the mirror image, right? So okay, so this was the vibrational structure. Now what happens is, whenever this is in the higher excited state, right, this vibrational level, they are not emitted from here, they actually relaxes, right? Whenever in the higher vibrational level, it relaxes down to the lowest vibrational level of that excited state. This is called this intersystem is not intersystem crossing, so internal conversion, right? This is called internal conversion, right? This appears very fast in the time range of 10 to the power minus 12 seconds, right? That means it is faster than the emission or faster than the fluorescence that we have discussed, right, in the range of 10 to the power 8 seconds. So it is much faster. Okay, now all this in the from the first level, from the second level, they relaxes here. So after they are here, the emission or fluorescence takes place from this level. This is the what? From which level? From the lowest vibrational level of the first excited state. This is most important, right? You have to keep this in mind, that fluorescence always takes place from the lowest vibration level of the first excited state, right? As such, what you see, and not only this, it happens what? It mainly goes here to the highest vibrational level of the first excited, the ground state, and some of it comes here and then comes here. So this is what? This will give you, see, this is very much smaller in energy compared to all of them. That's why we see small energies here. Right? And intensity is similar to the probability, so it appears, and then this one, and then this one. Okay, now my drawing, according to my drawing, right? I mean, I am not a very bad in drawing, so this is not in the same region, but these two are very close. These two are very close, you can see, because they again depict from 0 to 0 and 0 to 0, right? So these are either overlapping or very close, as in the case with, see, this real thing, right? Forgive for my drawing, but you see in the case of pyrrolene they are very close to each other, right? So you can say this is 0 to 1 transmission, sorry, 0 to 1, 1 to 0 to 2, and 0 to 0, right? So this is why we have low energy. So this emission wavelength is always greater than absorption wavelength, right? That means emission energy in terms of frequency, you can say emission frequency energy is always lower than the absorption frequency, right? This shift, this phenomenon was first observed by G.G. Stokes in 1852, and that's why this kind of shift, that is from emission wavelength, from absorption wavelength to lower energy wavelength for emission maxima, is called Stokes shift. Stokes shift, right? This is important to remember, and this will always happen, right? This will always happen, the Stokes shift, because it is inherent. Vibrational levels are always present, it is inherent. Now, so this somewhat explains this pyrrolene diagram for pyrrolene, why it is mirror image and why it is more like that. But for the quinine structure, it is not mirror image. You see why it is so? Because the hump there is not due to the vibrational structure, right? It is in the hump in the absorption. The higher energy absorption here in around 30, this 320 nanometer wavelength is due to the excitation of this molecule from S0 to S2, right? S0 to S2. And what happens whenever you give rise to S0 to S2, whatever you do, it again falls back to this one. It again falls back to this one, right? The first excited state, and then it again equilibriums to the lowest vibrational level of the excited state, and ultimately emission appears from here. Then what we will see? We will see only one type of line. Right? This is why we see only one hump in absorption spectra of quinine. And from here we also have another important rule called Casha's rule. Casha's rule. What is Casha's rule? It says that emission always takes place from the lowest excited state. Emission, I mean this fluorescence is always takes place, from lowest excited state. Lowest excited state. That means this emission wavelength is independent, right, of excitation wavelength, isn't it? You can excite to higher energy or lower energy, doesn't matter. You can excite even higher, right? So this fluorescence wavelength is independent of excitation wavelength, right? So whatever wavelength you excite, of course that should be greater than their energy difference of S0 and S1, right? Whatever you excite, the emission will always take place from the first vibrational level, and as such that will be independent of the excitation wavelength, that will appear at that particular only, right? So that's why we see that it is not the mirror image, the quinine thing we see there, this is not the vibrational structure, right? For pyrrolene, these structures are due to vibrational, but this is not for vibrational structures, right? This is for due to different things. There are ways to study, to distinguish between this vibrational structure and this what is for higher excitation in for the higher excitation structures, right? But for the time being, we just concentrate on three things, right? This Jablonski diagram, right? This Stokes shift, and this what is our Kasha's rule, right? These three are important, right? Now this slide has already become cumbersome, right? Okay, so this was already done there, right? I think we have already explained this, right? Now let's do another Jablonski diagram quickly, right? Now we have seen that S0, S1, S2, right? So there are vibrational levels. So whatever you excite here doesn't matter, right? It will fall back here, it will again fall back here, and ultimately the emission will occur from here. So this is H nu emission or fluorescence, F you can write. So this is our Stokes shift, right? Now just to mention that there may be states which are triplet states, right, where the spin flip is taking place. So instead of this emission, sometimes if there are excited state, electronic excited state, which are very close to this fast excited state, right, where then electron can easily go to that state, right? So there is a spin flip, right? This is called inter system crossing, inter-system crossing, or ISC, right? This occurs very fast, nearly 10 to the minus 15 seconds. When this occurs, right, what we have? We have phosphorescence then. Right, we have phosphorescence at that time. So if you want to increase the lifetime of this emission or fluorescence, then we try to insert another excited state, right, by in the system, which is triplet excited state, right? These are typical for metal complexes, which we have already studied some in coordination chemistry. This is typical for metal complexes. Suppose here is ruthenium, right? Now what is this? Sorry, let me draw it here. So this is pyridine, you know, and if you join another pyridine here, both are joined, suppose in ortho position, so this is called 2 dash by pyridine. Now when this is coordinated to ruthenium, so three of them, right? So I have not drawn it here. So this is a typical example of 2 plus. This shows this fluorescence, but that fluorescence is actually technically phosphorescence, because they have metal to ligand triplet MLCT, right? We will not go into the details of this, just mentioning that the Jablonski diagram is not complete. By that, Jablonski diagram will be complete for a typical fluorescence and phosphorescence if you draw it together. So this was the preliminary discussion about fluorescence. So to sum up, say what we learned today, we learned that luminescence this is divided into two parts, right? One is fluorescence, then is phosphorescence. resonance, right? This is due to singlet to singlet, and this is from triplet excited state to singlet excited ground state, and this is from singlet to singlet, right? Okay, now this has a typical lifetime of around 10 nanosecond, and this has lifetimes around -3 second to 1 second, even more than that on, right? And we saw that this typically arouse from aromatics, right? Highly sensitive, and they have mirror image relationship with the might have mirror image relationship with absorption spectrum. See, why I say might have, or I mean it will always have. Technically, one should have always this mirror image relationship that I am coming. Just I should summarize first. And we saw two important phenomena, that is called Stokes shift and Cash's law, right? And of course we also did Jablonski diagram, right? Jablonski diagram. Okay, now you see why I say what is happening here. Now if the vibration levels are very distinct in this case but not in this one, now this is because due to rapid vibration, I mean closely spaced vibrational levels, right? Now if you can cool the temperature of the sample to certain extent, then there is possibility of seeing the vibrational level much higher, right? So for the quinine also it might be possible, if we cool the temperature at very low temperature, we might see the vibrational levels. Okay, so this was the preliminary discussion. Tomorrow, so we'll discuss the instrumentation and few applications of fluorescence.